The next 4 years will get harder for Canadians. And I'm not just talking about the Trump's tariff that is gonna hurt the Canadian economy. Hell, Trump could stop his tariff completely and life of Canadians will not get any better. And this is regardless of which of the two likely candidates will win the election. To be clear, I do think that Carney is better for the country than Poilievre. He probably won't implement any of the socially conservative and far-right policy that Pierre Poilievre could have adopted. However, in terms of the economic life of most Canadians, then things won't get much better. Again, Carney is better than Poilievre, but only by a little bit. Because in the end, both of them want to implement austerity. Austerity is when government implement spending cut or raise taxes to reduce government debt. This, we are told, will stabilize the budget, encourage growth, and our economic life will just get better. Somehow. Now, I'm not an expert scholar on the subject, but what I've been able to gather is that austerity is not a guaranteed way to drop government debt. Like, sometimes it does, sometimes it does not, sometimes it does rate growth like the way we want, or sometimes it's all just wishy-washy. However, when it comes to the economic life of regular citizens, then you are always losing to austerity. Governments who adopt austerity believe that some part of the public sector are ineffective and too expensive. So they want to cut it, and they want the private sector to take care of the matter. And about raising taxes? Well, since people who adhere to austerity believe that the private sector can be better than the public sector, then those tax raises are almost never going to be targeted towards the super wealthy businessmen. Oh no, we cannot be too mean towards them. These are the ones who's gonna trickle down their wealth to the working class. So if the tax raise does not target them, then they're gonna be towards regular citizens. So you're getting taxed more and getting less out of it from the public sector. Wow, great. But some people would like to make you think that somehow the regular Joes are winner in all this. That even though you get less from your tax dollar, balancing the budget will be better off for all of us in the end. This is a lie because it's not the country with the lowest debt to GDP ratio that get at the top of country with the most happiness or the countries with best standards of living. A consistent teams of the countries that rank at the top in life satisfaction and high standards of living are countries with high public sector employment and high public spending and pretty high tax on high income earners. Those are the Scandinavian countries which share more or less the three characteristics that I've just described. It's like the exact opposite of what austerity is trying to accomplish. I'm not saying that we should never try to bring down the debt of the country, but people telling you that somehow cutting public spending and the welfare state will be somewhat beneficial in the long run is some fucking bullshit. And there is some example we can point out too. During the Industrial Revolution, various countries transitioned from a country based on agricultural and handicraft to an economy based on large-scale industry. These countries saw their production and wealth skyrocketed like never seen before. Surely, it was a glorious time to be alive for everyone, right? No. The owners of these industries were drowning in cash and were living quite a comfortable life. But for the working class, they were living in absolute wretched misery. Since it was the rich capitalists who were running the show, they kept all the wealth for themselves and left next to nothing to the workers. It's only after ordinary people goes on strike and protest, which forced their government to take their needs more seriously, that their life would improve. A more modern example would be where Elon Musk, with his chainsaw, has recklessly cut so much social security and the public sector while still receiving billions of dollars from corporate welfare. Damn, so much for waste, fraud, and abuse. It's not by hitting the right spot on some magical chart that how our life will get better. It's about having a government that cares about giving us a good and fulfilling life. A government who's willing to do something about the fact that the wealth of this country is getting more captured by the very few super rich. The only way for the economic life of regular Canadians to improve is to have a prime minister who is willing to go against the grain. Someone who's willing to put bold economic reform and who's gonna piss off the richest in the country. A group who got used to getting fat and greedy. But it's no easy task, since the super rich pour a lot of money into politics in order for their interests to be protected. Mark Carney seemed to understand the unfavorable reputation economists have. He has made effort to show that he's not just some insensitive economist who is obsessed having the line goes up on a chart. He talked about how he wants to invest in people first, instead of just money. But those are just nice slogans to get himself to win the election. Because he also talked about how Trudeau spended too much and he wished to reduce spending. He also planned to cancel the increased tax in the capital gain tax that Trudeau would have implemented. And one strange decision is that during the cabinet reshuffling, he has eliminated the Minister of Labor and renamed it the Minister of Jobs and Family. Also, in his book, Values, Building a Better World, that he wrote in 2021, Carney basically advocates for capitalism, but with a good heart. He is no Milton Friedman believer in unchecked capitalism, and he do acknowledge that our economic system has created inequality, but he believes that private enterprise can be incentivized to make decisions that will benefit us all. That doesn't mean like imposing law that force private company to act a certain way, but that they simply need to be guided towards a better path, a more just treatment towards the working class. This is an incredibly naive way of thinking. Since every CEOs of major corporations have a fiscal responsibility to make the most profit as possible for their stockholders, they will use any way possible to bring the profit, no matter how destructive it is to the rest of us. The only way to mitigate this is to have strong laws and a government who is willing to go after corporations if they break the law. Also, strong rate of trade unionship could help with that. It's not by politely advocating for CEOs to be more cool with workers. That shit's not gonna work. And if you think that Pierre Poilievre is going to be better for us, then oh boy do I got a fucking bridge to sell you. While markcarney might naively believe that he can make the life of regular Canadians better while keeping the capitalist class happy, Pierre Poilievre would simply hand over the Canadian economy to the capitalist class on a silver platter and lick their fucking assholes. Sure, Poilievre would tell you that he's for the working class, man. He'd tell you that he will go after corporate greed. He will wear a cowboy hat and be like, yippee-ki-yay, I'm a little cowboy. However, that's all talk. His action speaks louder. During all his time in politics, he has been nothing but a shills for corporation, and someone that do not care for the regular Canadians. During his time in politics, Pierre Poilievre voted against a national food program for children. He voted against a dental care program. He voted against a farmer care program. He voted against raising the federal minimum wage. He voted against COVID relief. He voted against investment to build new homes. He voted for raising the retirement age. He once said that childcare is sludge fund. He voted for a bunch of bills who were anti-unions. He voted 2 times to cut spending for healthcare. One of them cutting close to $200 billion to healthcare. On top of that, since becoming the Conservative Party leader, nearly half of the seats of the top governing party of the Conservative Party are powerful corporate lobbyists. Truly a man of the people. And if he wins this election, you can bet your sweet ass that he's gonna use the same Donald Trump playbook. Which means ruin the economy for regular Canadians and make the rich richer. Blame the economic problem on the previous government, but also tell at the same time that the economy is fine or it's gonna be wonderful in the future. It really sucks, but it's really the only 2 parties who are bound to win. Even the other parties, who historically had served as a balancing power in Canadian politics, are not looking to score big in this election. The NDP are looking to get absolutely washed. And I'm saying that as someone who is sympathetic towards the NDP. With the Liberal, the Conservative, and the NDP are the one with the best policies to help the working class. But you don't win election with just having the best policies. You need to have energy, a compelling campaign, and a narrative to sell. And the NDP right now got none of that. Jagmeet Singh has not done a great job inspiring people to vote for his party, and the NDP will suffer because of this. There's a real chance that they might lose their official party status. Bloc Québécois is a party that only people in Quebec can vote for, so their reach is limited, and they are looking to be weakened in this election. Donald Trump gonzo tariff against Canada and his constant threats has spurred a wave of Canadian patriotism across the country, and Quebec was not spared from the wave of patriotism. To be clear, it probably doesn't mean that Bloc Québécois will be defeated into oblivion, but a lot of seats will be given to the Liberal because a lot of Quebecers want to stand in solidarity with the rest of Canada at the threats of the Orange Man. And then there's the Green Party and the People Party, which has always been fringe, so they'll stay fringe. So the next 4 years are not gonna be great, but I also fear what's gonna come next. Since I predict that life is not gonna get much better for Canadians, I fear that it's not the last that we will hear from Pierre Poilievre. The reason why markcarney is bound to win is because of the danger that is Donald Trump. Carney has been much better at matching the frustration and anger most Canadians have towards Trump, saying that the old relationship with the US is over, saying that Canada must distance itself from the United States, both economically and politically, saying that he won't negotiate with Trump until he respects Canada's autonomy. And now that the USA has put tariffs on basically every country in the world, even an island with just full of penguins. And also, Carney has said that if the USA doesn't want to be the center of the economic world, then Canada will, in comparison to Pierre Poilievre, who has been a bit more soft towards Donald Trump, insisting that he can make new deal with Trump even though most Canadians want the country to be less connected to the USA. And Canadians do not seem to appreciate Poilievre Trump-style aggressive rhetoric. The reason why Carney can win this election is because what most Canadians care about is to protect the autonomy of Canada. If there was not that concern, then Carney wouldn't stand much of a chance. It's only by this unique circumstance that Canadians are willing to vote for a career economist to lead the country. Because before Trump became Canada's enemy number one, what most Canadians were concerned about was the cost of living crisis. That's why people were willing to vote for Pierre Poilievre, because they were sympathetic towards him when he was ranting about the struggle of the economic life of regular Joes. This is hardly a situation unique to Canada. The rise in popularity of far-right candidates and party is happening all over the world. And that's because the promise of liberal capitalism, which is supposed to be the best economic system for everyone, which is supposed to let everyone that work full-time have a fulfilling life and have financial security, this promise has completely failed many people. More and more people are struggling to pay the bills and have given up on owning a house. And the idea that you simply need to work hard to get by is absolute cap. With people having 2 or 3 jobs and somehow still struggling to put food on the table, and the idea that the richest in the world are somehow more deserving of their wealth than any of us, and they will have more money than we can ever fucking imagine, fuck that. People are incredibly angry at our current economic system, and rightfully so. And the reasons why the far right are gaining ground is because A, people sympathize with their style of angry rhetoric, and B, they are willing to put the blame on someone for the difficulty people are living. This is something that the Liberals Party never do. They never really put blame on anyone. They always just tell that the situation is not as bad as it seems, and if they simply readjust 2 or 3 policies, then things will be awesome again. And that strategy by the Liberals is waning, and the far right are capitalizing on people's angers and frustrations. Sure, it's a good thing for the Liberal in Canada that they can exploit the dislike of Donald Trump, but that strategy won't work forever. If Carney wins, then the Liberal would be in power for 14 years in a row. Eventually, Canadians will stop standing behind Carney only because he's the best choice against Trump. And since I don't think Carney will make the economic life of Canadians drastically better, and since the Liberal would have been in power for so long, people's patience towards Carney could run out very quickly. And you'll have Poilievre still bitching and moaning about how the Liberals are doing a terrible job, despite the fact that if Poilievre would have been in power, he would have made a terrible fucking job even more. Then the only thing this election would have accomplished is delay Canada falling to the far right.